tonight's PHED and HHS committee session to discuss the preparations for the winter season. And I'm going to turn it over to my colleague and friend, Councilmember Evan Glass, member of the HHS committee, who is our lead on homeless and vulnerable populations, who will be chairing this session. So for those of you that want to chime in among our colleagues, please text Evan. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Chair Albernaz. I appreciate it, and also Chair Reamer for convening this conversation and allowing me to lead the conversation, and Mr. Rice too, as well. And so, this is a timely conversation that we're having today about our homeless population here in Montgomery County. We know that the coronavirus pandemic has completely changed the way we live and operate, and vote, right? Voting is going on too, and we're seeing how that is taking shape. And of course, it has also changed the way that we deliver social services and the way that many of you in your capacities change social services. And with all of these life changes, I know that has impacted all of us personally and professionally. And I really appreciate everybody working together to continue to care for our most vulnerable residents here in Montgomery County, on top of everything that each of us are doing in our own personal and family capacity. And so as temperatures start to drop, we know that more residents are going to be seeking shelter. And you compound that with the economic situation that we're in, not only nationally, but locally as well. And I saw the Columbia University study that predicts that there's going to be a 40 to 45% increase in homelessness this year because of the economic climate. And so given that, and given the social distancing that we are required to put in place here to make sure that staff and individuals experiencing homelessness are as safe as they can be while providing social services, we're here to discuss how we do those services, how you all conduct them, and how we can support those efforts, both from the executive side, the legislative side, and of course our community nonprofits as well. So I want to thank all the social service providers that are here today to share with us the efforts that you have already been undertaking over the last 7-8 months during the pandemic, not to mention the years that you've been building to make Montgomery County one of our national leaders in efforts to end and prevent homelessness. And so that is the baseline in which we have this conversation. And I will ask Ms. McMillan if she wants to walk us through the packet or have any other comments.
I just wanted to start by saying that the one thing that hasn't changed because of COVID is our goal is to make homelessness rare, brief, and non-recurring, right? So that's our unchanged goal. But we have seen that COVID has both changed things immediately, but also caused us to change some of the things we think about when we think about emergency shelter. I also wanted to say the discussion today is about emergency shelter for single adults without children. We can have always other discussions about homelessness amongst families, although there's very good news in the memo about how much we have been able to divert and reduce homelessness among families. And I'll let Ms. Harris add that into the conversation. But the purpose of today is really to talk about where we are with our current shelter space for adults, some of which is in temporary space because we have had to increase social distancing for the health of everyone, the health of our whole community, the health of the homeless people themselves that are seeking shelter, the health of our staff, but also that we do have to plan for the future for when we need to be out of some of the facilities that we're currently in. And because there'll be some urgency around that, the goal of today was to have the council members have a really good baseline on where we are, hear from our provider partners, so that when the executive branch does bring forward options about future shelter facilities, that you have all the background that you need to be really ready to go to consider whatever those options are, so that we can move forward in a timely fashion. And so that's really sort of the main goal of today's session, is to give you that background and also to hear from our provider partners and have a little bit of a general discussion. And Ms. Harris does have an overview presentation. I didn't know if you wanted to hear from any of your colleagues first, but she does have an overview presentation.
I was going to ask if HHS Chair, Mr. Albornoz, or the Fed Committee Chair, or anybody else have any comments.
Thank you, Councilmember Glass. I just want to express my appreciation to our incredible community-based organizations and partners, and also the staff at HHS. I know you've been working around the clock since the beginning of the pandemic and long before that. And so this is an important discussion, and I appreciate all of that leadership and all those efforts. I will have a lot of questions later, but we'll save those for after the presentation.
Thank you. I echo those comments. I think we've been making so many strides on helping people who are experiencing homelessness get services, get shelter. And I think generally speaking, our response in COVID has been noteworthy. So I'm looking forward to this discussion about how we can address this bigger need of the shelter. Thanks.
Anybody else? Okay. So Ms. McMillan, if we want to go through the packet, or have Ms. Harris.
I think Ms. Harris can go through her slides, and that'll cover some of most of the things in the packet, which was really also a summary, and then maybe another couple points before we turn over to questions.
Excellent. Ms. Harris, it's all yours.
Great. Thank you very much. Linda, do I need to pull up the slide deck, or can you do that?
Either you can or our IT person can.
Okay. If your IT person could, that would be great. I will. Perfect. Great. Thank you so much. So before I get started, I do just want to again echo the statements that have already been said and just express my appreciation and gratitude for all our partners involved in responding to COVID in our homeless continuum. That includes all our nonprofit partners, our outreach providers, shelter providers, but also DGS and our partners in REC who are actually providing staff at the shelter, our partners in public health that have helped us with the testing, and some of the school health techs are actually helping us staff the shelters. So this has really been a community-wide effort, and I am just so grateful because we could not do this alone. And we have done a lot of really challenging stuff. We ended veteran homelessness. We basically ended chronic homelessness, but this is by far the hardest I think that we have ever had to do as a community. So just a couple other things I wanted to mention before I get into the weeds. COVID has certainly shined a spotlight on the already existing disparities, particularly the health disparities in the homeless continuum. We know that the life expectancy of someone experiencing homelessness is 30 years younger than the average American. We also know that people experiencing homelessness are twice as likely to die from an infection. And this was pre-COVID. So imagine what that looks like now. We have a fair number of people in our population that are over 62. So the last point in time, the 2020 point in time, we had 17% of our single adults were over the age of 62. And 40% of single adults in our homeless continuum are over 55. And given that their life expectancy is so much less, a 55-year-old is more like an 80-year-old or an 85-year-old. So these are folks that already had significant medical conditions and challenges. We have seen that 25% of our single adults have an observable serious health condition. So that's probably higher. That's just what we can observe. So it's really important that we are doing whatever it takes to keep people safe and healthy throughout the pandemic and moving forward. I think what we have realized is that our way of operating and having a lot of people in a very small space is we can't operate that way any longer. It's not just during the pandemic, but moving forward, we really need to look at things differently. There may be another virus. There is already influenza and other viruses that we need to be concerned about. So this is really not just a short-term solution, but what we need to do for the future. And then the last thing I'll say is just give you an update on where we're at with positive cases in the homeless continuum. So many of you are aware, we have been doing regular testing in our congregate facilities. So we test new intakes, and then we test all congregate facilities at least monthly. When there is an outbreak, that we increase the testing to once a week. To date, we've had 50 people in the homeless continuum test positive. 26 of those were from our mass testing, and then 24 were either from a house program or shelter or another congregate facility before we started doing mass testing. And our positivity rate is 1.5%, which is lower than the positivity rate for the whole county. So I think we're doing the right thing here. We've had a lot of success. Okay, you can go to the next slide. So just going to talk a little bit about where we are and then what are some of the options for the future. So you can go to the next slide, please. So here, this is a complicated chart, but trying to demonstrate our need for more beds. And as you all are probably aware, we were already operating at a shortfall. So back, I don't remember exactly when it was, but we lost the Goody facility. And so that shelter had the capacity to serve somewhere between 130 and 145. And look, Susie's nodding her head, so I'm glad I got that right. And we can no longer use that facility. So we were already operating at a deficit prior to COVID, but this obviously has been made worse. So you can see, I'll just go to the bottom line, and I'm happy to pause and see if there are specific questions. But our pre-COVID capacity for winter beds and year-round beds was 378 for single adults. COVID capacity, we have a little bit more. We have been using hotel rooms, so that's 386. We are using many temporary facilities, including the rec center's 6 Taft Court, which thank you to the city of Rockville for allowing us to stay longer. I think they wanted us out in just a few months, and it's been a lot longer than that. A year, it will be a year, maybe more, yes. So we are very, very grateful, but we do know that we have to give those spaces back at some point. So, and we also know that even our existing facilities, we can't operate the same way we were before. So like 2 Taft Court, which is where we have our women's center, is gone from 70 beds to 28 beds. So, you know, we're operating at like 30% of where we were before. So our known post-COVID capacities of the buildings that we definitely have access to is 108. That is less than what we typically would have even for our year-round beds. Our year-round beds was around 140. So that's even less than what we had normally. But we're really looking at the whole bed capacity, so looking at the winter capacity as well. So bottom line is we have a gap of about 270 beds. I will just pause and see, because this is sort of complicated, so I'll see if there's any immediate questions, and then I can go on.
Any of my colleagues have any questions on these data points? Okay.
Great.
Keep going on, Ms. Harris.
Evan, actually, I do.
Here you go. Mr. Delando.
Thank you, Mr. Glass. Hi, Ms. Harris. So are you going to get to, and maybe you are kind of seeming to explain it, the whole issue of when we lose, so this is the whole issue of when we lose certain beds, right? That's what you're going through here.
Correct.
And what are the dates again?
So we have a definitive date for 6 Taft Court, which is where we have the main men's facility right now. That we have through April. Okay. There is no drop dead date for the use of the rec centers.
So those could be extended, and is that what you're thinking on those, or?
So the recommendation from our recovery group was that we continue use of those facilities minimally through the winter, but ideally through this fiscal year.
Okay. And you'll get into, I guess, in later slides, what you're thinking about the 6 Taft and the solutions for that.
Yep.
Okay, great.
Yes,
Thank you. Thank you,
okay.
Mr. Lead.
And I was muted. Fed Committee Chair, Councilmember Raymer.
This is a question to which there's not yet an answer, but vaccinations. It seems very reasonable to expect a highly, an allocation of vaccinations for people experiencing homelessness by spring. How would that factor into the beds? This entire chart is based on a premise of distancing requirements. With vaccinations, it might be different. Perhaps you're going to address that general topic in the course of the presentation, in which case I can wait, or I can wait for a more appropriate time. It just seems like it's a kind of a issue hanging over in a very broad way.
Sure. So I can take a stab at that. We have actually sought out guidance from Dr. Gales and Dr. Bridgers about what this would look like in the event, when there is a vaccine and it is widely distributed. And their recommendation is that we need to continue to have 6 feet of distance even after there is a vaccine available, because there could be another virus. There are also other viruses out there. There's influenza. Like we need, this is just the new way of operating to ensure that people are kept safe and healthy in shelter. Now there may be a little wiggle room there. Maybe it's not quite 6 feet, maybe it's 5 feet, but we're never going to be able to go back to a place where we had bunk beds and the bunk beds were, 1 or 2 feet apart. That this is for the indefinite future.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that is that's a big change.
Yes, it is.
Okay, let's continue the conversation.
Councilmember Friedson has his hands up.
Thank you. Quick question on post-COVID. I understand that some of this is related to the timeline in terms of winter turning to spring and the regular cycle, but what are we including as post-COVID here? I mean, if the rec centers are moving forward into the end of the fiscal year or potentially beyond, because we're not opening up rec centers for regular activities, which I don't foresee in the near future based on everything that we're hearing from the health department and the executive branch, what does post-COVID capacity mean?
So the way I looked at this is just any facility that we have permanent access to. So I don't have a drop dead date of when it is post-COVID. This is the numbers here just reflect the buildings that we currently have and how many people we can put in them that belong to us, that we have regular access to.
Okay, so post-COVID is really just permanent facilities. That doesn't have to do with the use of the rec centers and whether or not they're available because we're not using them as traditional rec centers?
Right.
And, okay. So what is that? I'm just confused. What does that relate to? The hotels and Taft Court is unrelated to that issue, right?
Right. Taft Court, 6 Taft we will lose regardless. Right.
So that's unrelated. So, okay. So it's really just permanent and non-permanent. It's not really related to COVID.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
And we also have DGS here who can chime in later on about the rec centers and Krabs Branch and some of the other facilities I know that we'll get to. Yeah. Chair Albanos.
Thanks. Actually, Councilmember Friedson just more or less asked the question I was going to ask. And obviously, each of these facilities, in addition to the beds, carry with them different capacity for restrooms and showers. And so that varies dramatically, which also impacts operationally staffing and other support services and ancillary services that obviously these individuals need. So I know it's not in this chart, and we're doing the best we can with the situation that we have been presented in, but is there, of those facilities, Ms. Harris, I'm very familiar with the recreation centers and their capacity, and I have visited Taft Court, but has a best practice emerged moving forward as we seek other potential locations? Obviously, there's some capacity within hotels because of the high vacancy rates within our hotels right now, unfortunately, because the hospitality industry has been hit so hard. But have there been any lessons learned from some of the temporary shelters that we've had so far that we should avoid moving forward? We're going to get whatever we can get our hands on at this point because the situation is so desperate. But could you enlighten us at all into what we should be looking for moving forward in terms of the type of space that would make the most sense?
Sure. I'll get to that a little bit later, but I will answer it briefly. Location is always important. It needs to be near public transportation. That's critical. I think the other lesson learned is office buildings don't work. It's very difficult to manage outdoor restrooms. I will just say that it's incredibly expensive. We're spending almost $1 million on our outdoor restrooms. They break down all the time. You have to have staff to monitor them. It's just that doesn't work. So when we're looking at temporary facilities, the rec centers were great. They're already pretty much set up in a way that is conducive to shelter. They have restrooms, they have showers, they have big open spaces. So those are the kinds of things that we would be looking for.
And for those unaware, 6 Taft Court is an office building. And I know, Director Dice, you had your hand up. Did you want to comment?
Yeah, I think basically, thank you. What we're talking about is, and it was appropriate that Councilmember Glass brought up 6 Taft just at the end there, because if the question was asked if we learned lessons, yes, the lesson learned is don't try and convert an office building into a homeless shelter. It's expensive, it's difficult. And we have met, and I'm sure Amanda will get into this, so we might be preempting some of her presentation, but we've met with HHS, Amanda and her team, extensively over the last months, trying to narrow down what it is that their needs are and use that as the guiding principles, the program of requirements and needs that have directed our search for a solution. Given COVID, we've all been scrambling. And if we're going to look at a solution, we want to make sure that it's not more scrambling, but it is a holistic and permanent solution that addresses present as well as long-term needs. So what we're looking for are open floor spaces, light industrial areas where if it's already used with a combination of, say, warehouse and office space, we can easily reconfigure it. Or if it's currently open space, we can go in and configure it the way it is. And as Councilmember Albornoz pointed out, we're factoring in the substantial plumbing and waste facilities are required for restrooms and for showers, the electrical loads required for warming kitchens and serving areas, but also factoring in the operational needs of the service providers for lines of sight, yet for also screening and counseling and training, as well as the recreational needs of the occupants. So all of those things are going into play as we're considering facilities. And as you can see on the chart that's on the screen, we know we're solving for 300. Let's say just round it up. We're solving for 300.
Great, thank you for that, sir. I have a bunch of questions myself, but Ms. Harris, let's continue with your presentation.
Great, thank you. All right, we can go to the next slide. So this is just a look at our current shelter bed utilization. So we're averaging around 250. That's in the shelters. We have another maybe 50 to 60 in hotels. The blue line represents MCCH. The orange line represents Interfaith Works. That's our women's shelter and Progress Place. And then the yellow is the hotels. So there's some ups and downs. I will say in the last few weeks, it has been trending slightly higher, not huge increases, but we are seeing a slight uptick. I think we are all very anxious to see what happens on November 1, which is typically when we would open overflow shelter, to see if there are people presenting thinking that they can now come and access. We have kept the winter shelters open, so I hope that we don't see a huge increase, but we could in a couple days. Next slide, please. So just looking at kind of our inflow and our outflow. So in shelter right now, it's around 250 in the emergency shelter. On a monthly basis, we have another 101 new people entering the shelter, and then 92 people are exiting. So that's a monthly addition of about 9. It's important to note that there is lots of ebb and flow in the shelter. It's not just because we have 300 beds doesn't mean there are 300 people. As I've definitely heard the argument, well, shouldn't we just house those 300 people? And if it was just 300, yes, it would be far cheaper than operating an emergency shelter. However, we serve way more people. Annually, we serve about 1,300 adults in our emergency shelter system. And as Councilmember Glass mentioned earlier, there have been studies that are suggesting that the homeless population could increase 40 to 45%. So we need to make sure that we are keeping an eye on that. Next slide, please. Just a little more information about where people are coming from. So if we look at the previous living situation of new entries, you can see here that a significant portion are coming from a house situation. So they're either coming from permanent housing or they're coming from family and friends. 21% are unsheltered. So that's good that unsheltered folks are actually coming into shelter. We do have a fair number of people that we don't collect that information on, so that's something that we're continuously working on our data quality. And then another 16% that are coming from an institution, so hospital, jail, inpatient facility. I will say that I have heard from our shelter providers that we are seeing an uptick in inappropriate discharges from hospitals, treatment programs, residential rehab facilities, and what makes that even harder is that many of those programs are not taking new intakes, or there's so many barriers to accessing those that it's creating a significant bottleneck in our homeless system, and we're seeing people with really complex and significant needs. So that is certainly troublesome and things that we need to address. We have been working with our partners at the local behavioral health authority, and we're working with the state to try and bring in some additional resources into the shelter to address the behavioral health needs. But that is something that we're definitely keeping an eye on, as well as people exiting from jail. You know, there has been a push to do early releases and get people out of the congregate setting of a jail, but having them go into another congregate setting in a shelter, it sort of defeats the purpose. So those are definitely things that we're keeping an eye on. Next slide, please. So the good news about that is that many people are coming from a house situation. So we believe that we should be able to prevent many of those single adults from even entering the homeless continuum. We have seen great success on the family side and being able to divert families from shelter. It's over 70% of families seeking shelter we're able to divert through problem solving, conflict resolution, maybe a little bit of financial assistance. So given that so many people are coming from a house situation, we think we can divert about 25%. That's what we're aiming for. We will be hiring diversion specialists, and we will start to have a centralized shelter intake process. So instead of people just showing up at the shelter door, we will have them go through a screening. We will try and divert, and then if they can't be diverted, we will make that referral to shelter. We have also used our emergency solutions grant, the HUD funding, for an expansion of rapid rehousing. We have about $6 million in ESG for rapid rehousing. Interfaith Works at MCCH will be our rapid rehousing providers, as well as our county-run program. We are hoping that Interfaith Works at MCCH will start in 30 days or so. So that will be great. We'll be able to serve about 200 single adults through that program. And then we have gotten another expansion of our ACES Medicaid waivers for our Housing First permanent supportive housing. So we've been able to add some additional people into permanent supportive housing. I think we have to remember that shelter doesn't actually end homelessness. It is just a temporary solution. We really, in order to end homelessness, we have to provide permanent housing. So I have to say it pains me as a longtime housing advocate to be even having a conversation about getting more money for shelter. We need it. We definitely need it. Because of social distancing and our new way of operating, but we can't forget that we also have to invest in housing on the back end. Next slide, please. So again, our recommendations, we would like to increase the year-round capacity. It doesn't make sense in the midst of a pandemic or really ever to shut down and significantly reduce our shelter capacity in the warm months. The heat is just as dangerous as the cold, and we lose a lot during that time. People end up going out on the streets or they're kind of couch surfing, and then we have to kind of start all over when they come back. So the recommendation is to increase the year-round capacity by 250 beds, and then also look to have that surge capacity between 50 and 100. So as Mr. Dice said, we're really looking to solve 300, somewhere between 250 and 300. Next slide, please. So a little bit more about the program requirements. This is an opportunity for us to look at best practices and how do we kind of re-envision what shelter looks like. And part of that is about the physical building, but also just sort of the way we operate. Best practice is to have the 3 Ps. People want to be able to have their partners, their pets in their possessions in order to access shelter. We don't have facilities right now that can serve both men and women. We have Progress Place, which you can have around 30 people. They serve both men and women, but that's not near enough. So that's something that we're looking at. We do allow pets when we can, and possession somewhat. We have limited space, so those are just things that we need to keep in mind. As I mentioned before, location is always important. We currently have something in Down County and Mid County. We don't really have anything in Up County, so that should be part of our consideration. The scale, so we really need to have a larger facility. It is just not cost effective for us to operate a bunch of small facilities scattered throughout the county. One of our providers gave us an estimate that for a 25-bed facility, the cost per night is, I think, $93 or $95 versus a 70-bed facility, which goes down to $36 a night. So it's much better for us to have scale. Now, not to say that we can't have some small facilities that are specialized, but scale is better. Square footage, 120 square feet for the bed space, and then an additional 100 square feet for all the other stuff. People live there. They don't just sleep there. They need to have a place to hang out, to eat, to get services. So those have to be factored into our calculations. And then looking at the hotel use, I don't know when that will go away, but we do probably want to continue to have some non-congregate settings for people that do have significant medical issues or are older. So that's something that we need to continue to think about. Next slide, please. All right. So as I said, we also have to think about the permanent housing options. So I have listed those out here. I typically have a chart that shows you what's the breakdown of need in our single adult population. So about 50% of people, of single adults, are scoring for rapid rehousing. Another 25 or so are scoring for permanent supportive housing, and then 25% are self-resolved. So that not everyone needs the same level of intervention. Most people need something in the middle. So looking at expanding rapid rehousing, it's an average annual cost of $15,000. So for every $1 million that you invest, we can house 65 people. Also, we've talked about this many times, but I will just reiterate the need to expand the rental assistance program. current benefit is only $200, which is not particularly helpful for people. At the time, it was 25% of fair market rent. That's clearly not the case anymore. So increasing that to $400 would make a huge difference. It's a great tail end to rapid rehousing because many people that are served in rapid rehousing are on a fixed income. So once that subsidy leaves, they do still need a little something. They don't need case management, but they do need a subsidy. The annual cost of that is next to nothing. It's less than $5,000. So it's a good investment, certainly a good investment. And then more longer term solutions is looking at deeply affordable units. When we've talked to people experiencing homelessness, what they tell us is that they can afford to pay about $400 or $500 a month in rent. We don't have any affordable units that are $400 or $500 a month. Even room rentals are averaging $800, $900. So really looking at, let's get creative and figure out how we can create spaces where people can only pay $500 or $400, which could include looking at hotels and converting them. So really getting creative there. And then, of course, always need more permanent supportive housing. That annual cost is $30,000, which is still less. It seems like a lot, but it's still less than shelter. Annual shelter costs are around $38,000. So for every 1.5 million, we can house 50 people. Okay, the next slide, please. I think that's it. That's all I have. And certainly happy to take any questions.
No need to minimize it like that. That's all you have. There's a lot of good stuff that you just shared with us. And in speaking about the different housing options, breaking it down based on, cost and cost effectiveness, I think is really important, given the economic situation that we're in, that the county's in, and that we expect to be in a few months or over the next few years. I have a few questions and then turn it over to my colleagues. One of the slides that you had shared, data points, was about where people are coming from before they experience homelessness. And I think you had said about 40% are with family and friends. I think we equate that to couch surfing, in some manner of speak, and then 21% or so were just unsheltered and were outside. Question I have, though, is do we know the localities that some of the people are coming from? And if that has changed over the last 7 months to the last year, given the pandemic, if they're still just crossing Eastern and Western avenues like they have, and also, Piney Branch and University.
Yeah, that is an excellent question. I have asked the same. We don't collect data in that way as of yet. I do think it will be an important piece of information to start looking at. Where were people last permanently housed or stably housed? I am hopeful that this investment of the $20 million in the COVID rent relief, and particularly to those high need neighborhoods, will have an impact on this. I think if we can stabilize that household or the family that people are couch surfing or staying with, that there won't be as much pressure for them to kick that person out. So I think we need to start looking at that a little differently and collecting more information.
I'm glad you're going to be looking at that information or trying to ascertain it without being too intrusive, I presume. There's a fine balance between asking too many questions and wanting to be respectful, as we like to be here in Montgomery County, about some of that personal privacy information. Another question I have is about Progress Place. We've been spending a lot of time talking about Progress Place. There are a lot of different conversations, which I know my colleagues and I, a number of them have been brought into, trying to resolve various issues. But specifically, I'm curious about the homeless outreach coordinator position. And it has seemed through various conversations that we've had a hard time hiring people. And I know the council, for a long time, way before I got to the council, has had concerns about hiring and staffing up when the body has allocated funds to meet a certain goal. So towards that end, how are we with the hiring process for this position?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we have continued to not have much luck through our Athena contract and finding qualified candidates. We are exploring other options and actually giving that money to a provider to do that outreach work. I think that would be a more effective way to manage this.
So drilling down on that a bit. So it's been listed, but no one's taking the position. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct. We haven't got any qualified applicants.
And can you elaborate or guess as to why that might be? Is it not high enough pay? Is it too demanding based on the market?
I think it's probably all of those things. It's not a merit-based position, so you don't get all the benefits of being a county employee. It's a contract, and it's a tough job. It probably doesn't pay enough. And I think, what we're looking for in that Silver Spring position is very unique in that it's not just an outreach worker. It really is the liaison between the business community. So that's why it's been particularly challenging for us to find a qualified candidate, because we need someone that can talk and fit in both worlds, that understands and cares deeply about people experiencing homelessness, but also cares deeply about the well-being of the businesses and can kind of be the translator there. So
Sure.
it's a unique position.
And I see Dr. Kroll just popped back on the screen as well. And so I just want to reiterate a point that we've been making for a while, that we've allocated money for this incredibly important position. And if we're having a hard time hiring somebody on the open market, we need to figure out another solution to get this person on board. And I don't know what the mechanism necessarily is, if it requires another legislative fix, depending on the way it was allocated. But let's think creatively and swiftly to fill that spot. Okay, duly noted. Last question I have before I turn it over to my colleagues. DGS, I see Mr. Osund's here. I don't know if Mr. Dice is here too, but Director Dice, there you are. Crabs Branch, can you give us an update on that facility, which for people who don't know is where the facility, MCCH facility, currently at 6 Taft Court, will be going to a new facility, a pop-up, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, that work is done and occupied. We put in what's called a sprung structure. It's called sprung because that's the name of the company, but to describe it any other way, it looks like one of these bubble type structures, but it's quite sound and goes up fast, and it did, and basically doubled our capacity. And it was really, as you heard from Amanda's presentation, really expected to be a real problem solver until COVID hit. But that facility is completed and in full operation now.
Okay. Very good. I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues. Chair Albornoz.
Thank you, Councilmember Glass. I'll pick up where you just left off to my former colleague and good friend, Breaking Bad, Mr. David Dice. Love your screenshot there. I appreciate the delta of 300 beds necessary now, and I know it's a full court press to identify different locations. But based on those lessons learned, could you give us an update on where that stands in terms of the identification of additional locations to meet that delta, that gap in beds that we anticipate?
Sure, happy to do that. As you know from when we were working much closer together, we don't stop. As I say, we doze, but we never close. And the search in the market has been ongoing for some time. We have identified some sites. Obviously, I don't want to divulge what those are at this time, as we'll be into negotiations shortly. And we'll be making recommendations both to HHS and the county executive as to where those are. As Linda put into her packet, and by the way, I want to recognize Linda for an excellent job. It is her typical superb packet. But We were looking at, and Amanda mentioned this too, a combination. Do we do 2 facilities? Do we do 1 facility? If it's 1 facility, how large does it need to be? Where should it be? And so again, as I mentioned earlier, we've gone through a program of requirements that includes access to public transportation, ease of operation and use, but we also have to be fiscally conscientious and manage this and think about also the long-term operating costs, and doing 2 facilities exacerbates that considerably. So we've been trying to identify larger facilities in the market with looking at either lease or purchase or short-term lease leading to purchase. Frankly, a lot of that depends upon what works best for OMB and the cash flow. But again, as I stated earlier, we're looking for a permanent solution. This exercise of going through so many iterations and patchwork and smaller facilities. I think following the DC model, where they have a large facility that managed effectively, is what the path that we've been pursuing. And so we're in the market now. We do think we've got a couple solutions imminent, and hopefully, because we realize time's against us. The idea of a purchase or a lease, negotiating that purchase or lease, and then building that site out is going to take a year. So we can work with what we've got now, but time is against us.
I appreciate that, and actually you answered what was going to be the second part of my question, and that was, understandably, if we're in negotiations, then you can't disclose where and give a lot of details, but a preview of how much construction dollars would be needed to stand up these facilities to meet the needs of our operators. It sounds like it could take, between the negotiation and then building out whatever we would need to be built out, up to a year. Is that what you just said?
Yeah, I would say, and again, it depends on the condition of the facility that we find, whether it involves significant or only minor demolition, or it's an unused space that we can build out from scratch. So that all has a bearing. The sites that we're looking at, I think, are very promising. Typically we're looking for a facility in the 40,000 square foot range, and believe it or not, there's not a whole lot of those out there. And those that are, light industrial warehousing right now is the hot commodity in Montgomery County. And so we have to really be sharp in what we're negotiating. And we obviously don't want to be so remote that it's of no benefit to the homeless community. Many of these folks have got jobs. We want to make sure they have access to those jobs through public transportation. So the narrowing of the parameters limit the search that we can make. And
having been directly involved in negotiations for other properties when I worked in the executive branch, I can speak in the first person about how challenging that can be. But I do think it's important that we, particularly for our partner organizations and providers who will ultimately be charged with carrying out a lot of these services, it's important we communicate as much as we can to them, particularly around the timing, because understandably there's anxiousness and anxiety and concern, that there aren't as many properties as we would like, and so needing to have that two-way communication, I think, is going to be really important.
We completely agree with that. Completely agree.
And I guess question for Ms. Sinclair Smith and whoever the other providers are: what kind of lead time? So once a facility is identified and is built out, as we've learned from the transition to other facilities, about how much lead time do you guys need to set up shop to begin the operation, give or take, and acknowledging there are a lot of unknowns with regards to what the property might or might not look like. But what, from an operational standpoint, would be a best practice? Is it 2 weeks? Is it 3 weeks? Is it 2 months? Is it 3 months? It's as much time as you can get your hands on. but what is a reasonable lead time in order to be able to stand up the operation that you would need?
I'll make a comment and then I'll defer to my awesome Chief Programs Officer, Jen Schiller, for further remarks. But for 6 Taft Court, I think we were given a month's notice to move in there, and the build out hadn't been complete. So I really am very grateful for the Herculean efforts to find that location. We will do what we have to do, but in terms of the stress on both the people we serve, our staff, we need to know as soon as possible. And I think also we have, our clients need to know how to get to their jobs. We have 100,000 meals donated each year. It's there are lots of different components to being able to transfer. Also, when we had to continue hypothermia season, we were informed that we were going to do it just as we were winding down hypothermia season. So we let staff off. So we had to then turn around and rehire people. So there are lots of sort of operational dimensions that we and as you know, my board is very engaged. My past board chair built with the county partnership, the last shelter. My current board chair has served meals at the shelter for 10 years. As my boss, they're very worried about what the future holds for us. So Jen, can I turn to you in terms of?
Just real fast, I think 2 months would be great. 30 days isn't quite enough, but 2 months is good. You also have to get your staff in there and train them on the flow. The security is really important, making sure that everybody understands training the staff and talking with the clients and explaining to them where this new location is, moving their belongings and things like that. All of that stuff takes time. Having their therapist come in and talk to them about being in a new space. Hopefully they all won't be staying. Maybe some of them will be moving out, but any lead time is great. But I would say 60 days is really necessary to move that large scale operation to a new location if possible.
Yes. Yes, David.
Yeah, and this is all real good. When we talk about a year, it's not like we get to a year and then turn to the provider and say, okay, it's yours. They would be involved throughout the process. Again, we've been talking up to this point with our colleagues at HHS regarding what the general parameters are. You saw those in Amanda's presentation as far as square footage per resident. But once we get into a definitive place and start developing the floor plan, we'll do as we did with Susie and Jennifer and that team. We'll say, how do you want this to work? What is it? Because that'll be critical to informing us on the build out. So they'll be involved well into the process all throughout. So I don't think there'll be any doubt as to when it'll be ready or what it will need to look like by any of the parties.
Can I ask a quick question? Because I know that we're not sure how the space calculations were made for the space other than the beds. And I know, David, that was a conversation we had at Crab's Branch and Greg as well about, how much space we need for warming tables for our volunteers to bring food, for our offices, for our medical room and to keep medication. And so we were just wondering how that analysis was made. And
well, that's a good question, Susie. These have just been general guidelines. Again, a lot of it was informed us from what we've done at 6 Taft and how you used that space, and as well as the operational flow requirements from check-in and things like that. So what we're doing right now when we look at a building is we're basically doing what you might call bubble diagrams and orientations to make sure that there's space for the intake flow, the operational work, and what the general areas. When it comes down to defining square footage, whether an exam room is 180 square feet or 200 square feet, those sorts of things we'll get into later. But right now we're just looking at a bubble diagram to make sure that there's space for adjacency of functions.
And
I think it would be helpful. I mean, we'd love to be involved in those conversations at this stage so that we understand them if that's possible. But
All right, well, we'll work with Amanda and Raymond and make that happen.
Yeah, that was going to be my suggestion. And then just my final question is, you mentioned hotels, Ms. Harris, and I do think that the unfortunate reality is with our hospitality and tourism being what it is, there's huge challenges in that industry, which may present opportunities in terms of purchasing different locations. I know that is on the table as far as concepts that we are looking at. But I'll say this, I know all of my colleagues will agree. We all know this is among our highest priorities. And so, we will do everything we can to make this work. Obviously, there's a financial aspect to this that's very practical, very real, very raw. And we know the upcoming budget year doesn't look great, but we know what an important investment this is. And the short-term solutions end up costing us more in the long run, as has been indicated. And so I think, I know we would be very open to a larger investment on the front end if it meant savings on the back end, and obviously, most importantly, put us in the best position operationally moving forward. So I'll just throw that out there. If there's some opportunity that's on the horizon that we're on the fence about, don't hold back. So with that, I'll defer back to you, Councilmember Glass.
Yeah, I appreciate that. All your questions and comments, absolutely spot on, Chair Albornoz. And just for everybody to record set, after we speak with the executive team, we will have all of our providers have presentations themselves. So I know, Ms. Hong, I just saw you raise your hand or whatever. We'll get to you in a minute. Let me just get to my colleagues, and then we can turn it over to the providers. Next up is Mr. Rice.
Well, thank you very much, Lead Glass. And let me just say that, I'm going to pick up where Councilmember Albornoz left off. And let me just say this, that what I'm going to say, I assume everybody on this call knows. But for the sake of making sure that folks understand why what Councilmember Albornoz just said is so important, look, I've been out there, as well as many of my colleagues who have been out there. I've been fortunate enough to run across a person who was housing unstable, who we actually convinced that night when I interacted with him to come in and seek shelter. That is a powerful experience, but one in which I know that had God not been on my side, had not the timing just been right, he may not have sought to actually take that help. And so I think about him, and I think about the decisions that people make all the time. And the selling point that we give folks is stability. We say to them that you are going to get stable. We're going to help you become mentally stable. We're going to help you become financially stable, housing stable, all those things, and give you stability back in your life. And when we can keep moving people and put them into housing instability, which it is. I mean, when you move from one place to another, that's housing instability. All that does is bring them back to where they were before. And so that's why this is so important that we get it right, and that we do it as quickly as possible, because we will lose people. Every time that we move from one place to another means the opportunity for one person to step away and say, see, I knew it wasn't okay. I knew that what you told me wasn't going to happen. It's the same as what I've experienced all of my life with people failing me and not giving me what they need, and I'm out. That's not what we want, right? And so like I said, I know that folks are committed on this call, but I just want us to make sure that we understand what's at stake here and why we've got to get this right. So to Mr. Dice, and to echo what Councilmember Albornoz just said, we didn't get it right when it came to our CIP this past earlier budget season. And we made it right with Southlake, something in which we didn't have the money at the time, but figured out a way to make it happen and made it right for that community. We need to do the same thing when it comes to making sure that our homeless and vulnerable here in Montgomery County have a facility that works for them and encourages them to continue to go on. Because from a financial perspective, as you heard from my colleagues, and I just so appreciate them because they're just so right. The money that we save in terms of having these folks back on the pathway to stability is so much more than we would ever spend on a facility. We know this, just as with incarceration, as me representing the district that has Clarksburg, and I can tell you the myriad of people who come in and out of that facility who cost us tens of thousands of dollars a year, right? When we could actually have them on a pathway to stability, it's 100-fold. So from that perspective, it's important and imperative for us to make sure that the facility that we get is appropriate for the needs. So I would encourage you to make sure that you're working with the stakeholders now. Look, I trust the HHS, and Amanda's great, and Dr. Kroll's great. I mean, you guys are awesome. But again, they're not going to be in that building 24/7. So let's get the folks who are going to be in the building 24/7 and say what it's going to be. I'm not going to buy a house based on my realtor is great, but guess what? I'm not going to have him pick a house that I haven't been in and kick the tires. So why would we expect that to happen for our providers, for a population that's so vulnerable? Again, that's the thing. If we were building a library, I'd say, look, just pick a space, man, and figure it out, make it happen, like Clarksburg. Pick a place, like fire station. Pick a place, just make it work. I'm not parochial about that, but this is a little bit more than that. This is a very vulnerable population that's going to need to have something that's exact and works for them. And so I just wanted to say that because, again, I know we're all well-intentioned. I know we're all on the same page here, but I just wanted to make sure that we elevate the importance of this work and why it is incredibly necessary for us to be extra sensitive about what it is that we're doing with this population. So I just wanted to make those comments, Mr. Lead, and I'll yield back to you, sir.
Yeah, I appreciate those comments. We all need a level of self-awareness to know when we got to do better. And we need to do better for those who need our help, our most vulnerable residents. So thank you. I really appreciate those comments. Next up, Councilmember Friedson.
Thank you for that. I really appreciate the comments that have been made. First of all, I want to reiterate comments that were made earlier by Councilmember Albornoz and highlighted by others and by Ms. Sinclair Smith as well. But I want to make sure that the providers are included in these decisions. I don't think it's enough to just include county government, as terrific as our agency partners and department partners are, and as hard as Ms. Harris and others work. I think we need to know what the client wants, and we're the realtor at this point, and you can't put somebody in the place that they're looking for in the facility that they need unless you talk to the person who's actually going to be occupying it. So appreciate that sounds like it's going to happen. I think that's a significant benefit to the conversation that's happened today. We'll end up at a better outcome. So I'm glad to hear that that's happening. I did just want to get a sense. I'm still not certain, and perhaps I'm just not understanding this, but we seem to have some idea of where the long-term plan is headed, and we have an idea of what the current situation is, but I'm not clear, besides the original numbers that were presented, of what's the plan for April and May and June and July. What is the plan for how we move forward between this permanent solution or long-term solution that I know everybody's working really hard on, and we're going to include the partners on, and what we do when 6 Taft is up and when we don't get there. So I don't know if that's a DGS question or a DHHS question or both, but that's what I'm mostly concerned about.
Well, I'm going to defer to my HHS colleagues. We'll respond to the needs that are out there. Here's what I can tell you is that, as is mentioned, we're working. We have to get out of 6 Taft by the end of April. We're assuming that rec centers will still be available, and any summer overflow that needs to be done will frankly have to address with temporary spaces. Our target is next warming season, next November. is got to be our target for a permanent solution. We have discussed this with Amanda and her team, and I don't mean to throw you under the bus, Amanda, but I'm going to toss it off to you. It's a challenge. There's no doubt about that. But we still have the hotels, we still have the rec centers, and as has been abundantly mentioned by various council members, this is a priority. And let me assure you that the executive staff regards it as such, and we're expending top efforts to address these issues. So, Amanda?
So before Amanda weighs in, I'll just weigh in and start with an element.
Yeah, sure, please do.
I have been actually enjoying the conversation and watching my colleagues and team manage this conversation. We are very much aware that come the end of March, we have to have a solution to deal with the fact that we will lose 6 Taft Court. We expect, we have, and I think have some support to continue occupying the rec centers in the interim. And we have some hotel space available to us should we need it, although I think the hotel space is not ideal for shelter. We have a gap. We have a gap in need. There will be a shortfall in come April that we are now working to try to sort out a solution for. Whatever we do is going to be a cobbled together solution that will carry us into the summer when hopefully we won't need quite as much space, but also give us time for DGS to get us a permanent space up and into operation. So we don't have an answer for you. And I know that makes our shelter community a little anxious. It makes it not as anxious as it makes me or Amanda, I assure you, because we'll be sitting here in front of council explaining what happens if we don't have a solution. So we will have a solution. There's no question we will have a solution.
Do we know is there a timeline when that is going to be concluded and when the council would be informed of what the decision is and when the partners will be brought into what that decision is?
Well, I'm going to say that since Jen Schiller noted that they need about 2 months of planning around shifting, that at least 2 months before we have to move at the end of March. So earlier if possible, but at least by then.
So that would be by the end of January?
At the latest, at the very latest. I think we need to move faster than that, quite honestly, but I would say that will be the outside window.
Okay, well, I don't know if Ms. Harris wants to speak, so I hear
Sure.
you. I'll let you go first and then I'll respond.
Yeah, I think we don't know exactly what the future will hold, but what I will say, and I am hopeful and optimistic, we have had a significant investment in housing resources. This $6 million in rapid rehousing is 6 times the amount that we had before. So I am hopeful that through this winter, we can get a lot of people into housing, and that will help us manage at least to get us through this winter and then have a little bit of a break in the summer before we gear up for the next winter when we'll have a permanent facility. So, we have more resources for housing than we have ever had before. The federal government has invested a tremendous amount, not near enough, but more than we've had before to try and address this issue. So I hope that we can take advantage of it and really streamline that process and get people into permanent housing, which is really the only way to truly end homelessness. Shelter is still just a temporary solution.
Right, and I agree with that. And the hospital is a temporary solution for a patient, but at a certain point, the ultimate goal is not to keep somebody in a hospital; it's to treat them at the hospital to get them the services that they need. But you need to have a way to do that, and so we need the shelters, and we need to have the adequate space, and the shelters have to be in a place that is, as said earlier, that is accessible to folks and is known by folks. Because if it's in a place that is neither particularly accessible or well known to the people who need it, the benefit to the service is fairly limited. I'm just concerned. It seems to me we have resources, as you've said, we have facilities that aren't open. It's it's a little bit frustrating that we can't provide some level of stability and certainty to a community that desperately lacks both, and for service providers who have been stretched very thin with growing needs to the communities that they're serving. So I think I appreciate the end of January at the latest. I think we should aim for end of the calendar year to provide an extra month to plan and then 2 months to transition would seem to be appropriate. That would seem to give some level of certainty and stability to folks who I think really need it, and would allow us to be the type of partner that I think we're striving to be, that I know that you're working hard towards being. And so, I would hope that we could shoot for that.
Councilmember Friedson, I stand by what I said to you. At the outside, the end of January, my goal is to get it done earlier. So yes, I don't disagree with you about it, but
sounds good. All right. Well, we'll agree to agree on that. I'll yield back for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Friedson. Also appreciate the doubling down on the comments that everybody's been making about the need to partner, right, and have the county and the providers actually talk about these issues and work through them before the providers are asked to do the work. And I think the example that we need to keep looking at as how to do better would be Progress Place, where it was just a few months ago when we were still back in the council pre-COVID, and we were talking about a CIP to help improve that facility because Interfaith Works or the other providers weren't fully brought in as that was being constructed. And so as we are building more and doing right moving forward, we need to keep that in mind of how to do better. And that goes to a point that was made earlier in this conversation. And so I appreciate the executive branch for being here and everybody for sharing all the work that you're going to be doing. Now we're going to turn over to the nonprofit providers. A lot of people that we know and one new face who I'm excited to have introduced to the entire council. So the next panel, Susie Sinclair Smith, CEO of MCCH, and Jennifer Schiller, Chief Programs Officer, also at Montgomery County Coalition for the Homeless. Yes. I'm sorry, Councilmember Glass. Before you move on, I wanted to just say to remind the group that we've been doing a lot of work around recovery for the last several months, and we've had recovery groups that have been operating, particularly around homelessness and housing issues, and the members of the homelessness community, the service community, the communities of caring, have been part of that process and will continue to be part of that process. So the short answer is that, yeah, they will be engaged, absolutely. We need all of the partners at the table as we move forward in sorting out where we're going short term and what we're going to do long term. So they will be engaged. I just want to reassure the council that has happened and will continue to happen. We will take your word on that reassurance. Thank you, Director. So Mr. Courtney Hall, welcome, the new CEO of Interfaith Works. It's good to see you. I look forward to hearing from you in a few minutes. Ms. Christine Hong, Director of Homeless Services for Interfaith Works, and then Lauren Pava, ED of Rainbow Place. Before I turn it over to Ms. Sinclair Smith, I think Ms. McMillan has a comment that she would like to make.
Yes, this is related to the facility section that we've been talking about. So Mr. Dice had mentioned purchasing or leasing. I do actually want to say, and this gets to this issue of permanence, but we need to find the right facility. It needs to be a permanent facility, and it is in the interest of the county that the county own it. And we don't, we have occasionally, very rarely, sort of rushed into a lease agreement for a facility that is a critical facility to the county. This is a critical safety net facility. We need to have certainty around it. It's in our long-term fiscal interest to own, especially because we'll be making very significant investments for the things that Mr. Dice talked about, the plumbing, the electricity, all those issues. So I would just say that as council staff, when options do start to come forward, you would hear strongly from council staff about questions if we were somehow not to either purchase first, or if it was just a very short, like, lease to purchase, which occasionally we have to do. But this is something where we really, really want to have long-term control, and it's in the fiscal best interest to own. And I think that gets to Mr. Rice's comments about how we can make things work when we need to. And so I just wanted to say that before we move into the discussion with partners.
Thank you, Ms. McMillan. And my colleague, Mr. Rice, has a comment.
Well, if I could just follow up on that particular point, Linda, because what are we doing with Goody, right? Because we own that. And so that's also owned. So when we're talking about how much cost we have, we also need to be relative in terms of our thinking of, well, maybe we should sell that to offset whatever it is that we're looking to purchase. And again, I know the county doesn't like to, and I'm not telling Mr. Dice what to do. They're very good at their job.
Thank you.
In terms of, I love you, in terms of leveraging county resources. But at the same time, we do have a very large portfolio. And so that is something that's there and something that the council will certainly be looking at when it comes to affordability. So just wanted to say that's one of the things we should also be considering.
Speaking of Goody Drive, beautiful segue to MCCH. Ms. Sinclair Smith. You are on mute, Susie.
Thank you, Councilmember Glass, and thank you both to the HHS and PHED committees for starting this conversation today. And we're very, I know we was talking to Interfaith Works last night, and we're very excited to be part of this dialogue. And as you all know, MCCH has operated the county's men's shelter for 30 years, and we worked collaboratively with the county when we built the shelter on Goody Drive. And it was in partnership with the Maryland Building Industries Home Builders Care Foundation. So we were able to leverage significant private resources in that and use county land. So thereby saving the county money. As you know, and I appreciate you pointing out that this conversation is especially important for the county's emergency shelter for men, since we had to evacuate our building due to the environmental reasons. And the program has been operating in temporary locations for 1.5 years. And I do want to let you know, and I appreciate the sensitivity that the men and staff who have served them have suffered and experienced trauma, not only because of the several moves, but also as we all have, the onset of COVID-19 and working in a congregate facility has presented its challenges. Having said that, we are eternally grateful for our partnership with Amanda, SEF, HHS, where we've worked hard working together to address the contagion and spread of COVID. And as Amanda said, it's resulted in an only 1.5% infection rate at this point. And we also are extremely grateful for our work with David and Greg at DGS. We have been working very closely with them, weekly calls to work to accommodate 6-staff court and the sprung structure. And we really appreciate their partnership. I do want to emphasize, and I also am being very appreciative today, so forgive me if I say appreciate too much, but I do appreciate sort of us bringing us to this conversation. And I think bringing MCCH, and I can speak for MCCH, to the table now will lead to a better, more functional shelter space that will likely cost less. We have expertise in both at the staff and board level that can assist the county in finding sites and leveraging private resources to renovate the buildings and to offer the best design and efficiencies to serve this population. So I do hope that we have people with expertise in real estate. My board is continually coming to me with ideas for properties, so I do hope we can have a conversation around that. As you assessed, we have a contract to operate the men's shelter through the end of the fiscal year. We'll only have 38 beds out of the 190 beds we now have after April. So we are anxious, and we do want to know what the solutions hold, and we want to be part of creating the solution. And we're excited, and I'm asking the county to consider us as a partner and not a vendor at this time. We are a good thought partner. We're a good resource partner. And we're eager to work collaboratively and constructively with you. I also ask the county to think outside of the box at this time about opportunities within the private market that can be creatively leveraged by the county. And I ask that we be informed as soon as possible about the decisions that are made. And I think we've had that very conversation. I do need to register our concern about having one building for both the men and women's shelter. for us, and we've been operating, the large men's shelter, this would present a serious operational challenge to ensure the safety and care of both populations. But I think most importantly, I think that we do make that decision. We really need to consider the underlying challenges of the experience of homelessness for vulnerable populations that need to be considered in this decision in terms of experience high mental illness conditions, also experiences of being harmed, and sort of really looking at that to make sure that we're making the best decisions in the interest of our clients. Interfaith Works, and I talked last night, we really are in need of more behavioral health services at this point, not only with the crisis beds closed, but if it does go to one large building, we have found that the COVID and being congregated really exacerbates many people's conditions. So these are the very issues that we'd like to talk to you about. But I am a firm believer that crisis creates opportunities, and I'm very excited about this conversation today because I think that that we have broached that, and I really am just very eager to continue this conversation and talk about opportunities. And I think we've got some really awesome people around this square and little boxes to work together on this. So thank you all.
Excellent. Thank you, Ms. Sinclair Smith, for everything that you're all doing, and for your candor and for telling us what you need, right? Because you are a partner in this work and we want you to be successful in those efforts. And so we need to be collaborative towards that goal. So thank you. Next up, Mr. Hall.
Actually, Jen had a few comments. Is that okay?
Oh, okay. Yep, Ms. Schiller.
I won't, okay, I'll be incredibly brief, but just a thank you to DGS and for the CEF team for all the support that we've had, especially around the sprung structure and Crabs Branch. And a couple of points I just wanted to reflect briefly about the memo that Linda put together, which was awesome to read, but that MCCH, we're in support of no barrier shelters, and we've been successfully operating the men's emergency shelter with no barriers for many years, utilizing harm reduction, housing first, and a trauma-informed care lens. We strongly believe in those 3 Ps that were mentioned. I love them, partners, pets, and possessions. As a matter of fact, MCCH, we have a pet committee specifically designed to encourage pet ownership among our clients. We think that that's a really important thing that we can do to help stabilize our clients. And also that we believe in both smaller shelters as well as larger ones, and that both really have a place to play in our emergency shelter system. And having an emergency shelter designed for men and individuals who identify as male is considered a best practice, with designated space for people who maybe want to be with their partners, want to be with their pets, or have more possessions, maybe have a whole cart that they need to bring in and they would like to secure in the shelter facility. So those are just some points I wanted to mention, and I will kick the ball, I guess, now back to you, Councilmember Glass. Thank you.
I appreciate that, Jen. Thank you very much. So now I'll turn it over to Mr. Hall. Welcome to Montgomery County. Excited to have you for your first council session. Trial by fire, I hope not. But Mr. Hall, share with us what you're up to in your first 2 weeks. How long have you been at Interfaith Works now?
Trial by fire indeed. Thank you for the welcome. I appreciate it. And thank you for the note you sent a couple months ago. That's very, very much appreciated. So interesting news. I actually don't start working for Interfaith Works until Sunday, but I've appreciated how welcome I felt. I've really been jumping right into what we do here at Interfaith Works probably for the past 6 weeks. It's been wonderful partnering with the team, learning more about what the county is doing, how we're addressing homelessness, and learning much more about the partners who we have to sort of jointly come to the aid of the most vulnerable. So I appreciate all of that. I'd like to just sort of share a few words about my view about Interfaith Works. I will try to keep it very brief because I'd really like to kick it to my colleague, Ms. Hong, who will have much more context to share. Obviously, you all are very familiar with Interfaith Works, understand the work that we do, We like to see our work as anti-poverty and not just anti-homelessness, because that is a much broader view. And that I think that also very much aligns with the complement of programs that we bring to the county. So that obviously includes running shelters, which we are currently operating the Women's Center, Progress Place, and temporarily Cofield, the Recreation Center. But also we offer rapid rehousing, permanent supportive housing. We have a clothing center, which I think in many ways is what we are most well known for. And we actually have an opportunity that we're pursuing now with the county, with HHS, which we appreciate, to begin to turn that clothing center into a hub, a service hub. So to do much more than just distribute free household goods and clothing, but also hopefully to include things like healthcare and financial services and things of that nature, so that we can really continue working with the county towards this ultimate goal, which is to have Montgomery County be the county in Maryland with the lowest poverty rate, which I think is very, very possible. And I think given all the commitment and everything that I've heard here today, certainly reflects that also. We have several sort of reactions to the plan that was shared, and again, I've appreciated some of the meetings we've had with Ms. Harris and Dr. Crowell around the way that we're approaching homeless services. And I think in many ways we're in agreement with what's been laid out here. So I'll just make a few points. One, we think that it's important for shelter, for the size of the shelter to be manageable. For us, we become more uncomfortable when we're talking about a 125-bed shelter, just because we're now talking about a very low barrier shelter, which is what we want. We want people to experience the smallest number of barriers possible that will keep them from coming in out from the cold. With that, however, we know that we're going to be experiencing or dealing with a population who may have significant mental health, physical health needs. We need the staffing to be able to properly address that, and the support from the County Department of Behavioral Health, which I think has already been mentioned here as well. I also want to sort of echo what's been said by my colleagues here, but also by many of you already, the importance of having us as providers at the table. And I want to echo again how appreciative we are that we're being brought into the discussion at this early stage, rather than, I think is what may have been alluded to what happened as Progress Place was being designed. It's important that we are able to lend our voice to how not just the location of the shelter, but also how the shelter is actually constructed, to make sure that it's done in a way that is sort of trauma informed and is keeping those sorts of things in mind. We also very much support the 3 Ps. As you mentioned, Progress Place is currently being operated in that manner. We have had some challenges, I say, with the trip, which I think is helping us to sort of inform this idea of space that's needed for possessions, separate space that's needed for partners, so men and women are being housed in the same place. So considering how we may do that in a way that encourages people to come into the shelter and certainly doesn't discourage them from seeking shelter because they don't want to separate from their partner. And then also, believe it or not, I love to hear the idea that MCCH has a pet committee. That's wonderful. Maybe we should adopt something like that. But we understand that when folks are coming into shelter with their pets, that we need space for that also. And I think we're moving in that direction. So I appreciate the way that that's been outlined here. So I think I'll probably leave it there. The only other thing that I would say is that, again, regarding the staffing, we do see ourselves as an anti-poverty organization. One of the things we want to be able to get to is to be able to pay our staff, all of our staff, including frontline staff, a living wage. And I'm sure that's been discussed on this committee already. I'm sure you have. This is likely not the first time you've heard this, either from Interfaith Works or from other providers. So I probably won't go into too much more detail than that, other than to say that especially when we're talking about those of our staff members who are working at the most basic entry level. We understand that certainly at Interfaith Works, virtually all of those people are people of color, and the vast majority of them are African American as well. Having to pay less than the Montgomery County minimum wage for us does not feel very good. And so we would like the county support to be able to support contracts and budgets so that we can pay our staff a living wage also. And I'll pitch it to Christine in case there's anything else that she'd like to add. Thank you.
Yeah, Ms. Hong?
Yes, I want to echo everyone's appreciation for bringing us to the table for this very important discussion. I think partnership has really been reflected in the conversations. I'm really impressed by all the statements made about how we must keep those we serve in mind as we look at what space we're talking about. It's so important to the design of a space, not only for it to be safe, but also for us to create a space that individuals want to come to. And that is part of the problem. When people are choosing to sleep outside, I think it's our responsibility to design a space that people will want to come to, will be able to bring their belongings, share space with their partners and pets. And so Interfaith Works absolutely embraces that. I will say it is so important to include us in the conversations about design from the very beginning, and that has already been said, so thank you for that. And also in the planning of any move, any transition. I like the idea of the 2 months, and then Councilmember Friedson mentioned another month, aiming for another month on top of that, as well as what Susie said about being able to inform the clients as soon as possible. This is a population that experiences so much displacement already and very trauma prone. So we would want to let them know as soon as possible so that they can prepare. And I would just reiterate how, although we prefer smaller spaces, that in order to operate a larger space, the design is critical. So we know that at our women's shelter, where we have served 70 women, having smaller sleeping areas, multiple smaller sleeping areas, so it's not one large space, has been effective in allowing people to have more quiet at night, because we are serving a large population of individuals who have various disabilities, including behavioral health, that we have to consider all of that so that the shelter will feel safe, that it won't feel chaotic, and that our staff, our supportive staff, have exactly what they need to have the conversations to make homelessness brief, to move people right back into housing so that it isn't a long traumatic experience, which I know we're all on the same page about. So I just want to thank you for including all of us as the providers in this conversation, and to encourage you to continue to do so as we look to design a space that will be correct the first time, right? That we wouldn't have to invest more money to retrofit it to what it should be. So thank you very much for the conversation, and I look forward to continued conversations.
I appreciate that, and I think that's a shared goal, because again, it was a tough conversation, as was mentioned before during the CIP, to talk about expending money on a relatively new building that didn't necessarily have to be that way, and so that's a lesson to learn moving forward. And Mr. Hall, to you, to know that you're here despite not officially starting until Sunday, and to be so well versed in the vision and mission of your organization, and with sharing with us your leadership style. I look forward to seeing a presentation from you starting on Monday, or after you officially clock in. So thank you for being here, and for your leadership, past and future. And then last provider we'll hear from Rainbow Place, Lauren Pava. Nice to see you.
Hi, thank you, Councilmember Glass. So I too want to thank you all for including Rainbow Place in this really important discussion. I think it's really important. We're a little bit different than IW and MCCH in that for the last 38 years, Rainbow Place has served as an emergency overnight hypothermia shelter for women. We have been asked to, and very much want to, stay open for 24 hours for as long as we possibly can when we open later in November. But that has come with a lot of difficulties for us. But it is vitally important that we're included in this conversation to see where we fit, if we fit, and how we can support our community of women experiencing homelessness at Rainbow. We have had a lot of obstacles because we do not own our property. We rent from the church which founded us. So we are renters, we have other tenants. So we've spent the last several months, since we closed in April for guests and moved our people over to Cofield, we've spent the last several months getting permission from the tenants in our building, from our landlord, the church. We had to go through a special exception zoning process with the city of Rockville, which has been taking quite some time to be allowed to even consider staying open 24 hours. It looks like we're going to be able to, but again, we were discussing earlier in this conversation about short-term solutions. Well, what we're doing right now is very short-term, and we're unable to look long-term because we can only plan for as long as the tenants in our building are doing remote learning. So for November, December, January, Rainbow will be able to serve 14 women experiencing homelessness, but we are uncertain after that. Because in February, the nursery school wants to come back. Personally, I don't think that's going to happen. So I think we'll be allowed to stay in our current location longer than February, but certainly not into the summer because we don't have air conditioning. It just won't work. And it's not really a terribly comfortable place for people to stay 24 hours. But we're happy to do whatever we need to do. We just ask that we're included in this conversation so that we know what our future is and so that we're not planning for things that are never going to happen. Because we have been searching for space to do a day program for when we can no longer stay in our current space 24 hours. But again, don't want to be spending all of this time doing this if this is not in the plan from the county, and this doesn't sound like it is. So please keep us involved, keep us in the loop. We'd very much appreciate that. Thank you all.
Thank you for that update, Ms. Pava. And earlier this year, the council codified a new mission or an expanded mission for ICH. And it might very well be, Ms. Harris can maybe answer this, but it might very well be that in that expanded mission, there is that your vision is included in that, as well as we expand to families, which we know is predominantly single mothers, right? And so whether that is part of what we do moving forward. I have one or two questions, and we'll open up to colleagues, cognizant of the time here. And so, my first question to all of you, again, thank you for all the work that you're doing and to your staff. And, I just want to check in with all of you as leaders, organizational leaders. How is your staff doing? Are there individuals who have gotten sick? Is everybody treating themselves, because we have to be able to care for ourselves before we can care for others. And as has been noted in this conversation, and as we know, y'all are doing hard work and your staff is tasked with doing hard work. So I just want to make sure that you and your teams are in the right space to be able to do this incredibly important work for all of us. Ms. Smith, Sinclair Smith. Susie, you're on mute.
I think we're doing well. It's been challenging and it's been tiring. We have again appreciated the partnership with staff in terms of the resources and guidance. Raymond joined a call with Amanda's call the other day and gave us a good oomph to keep hanging in there and keep the eye on the fact that the virus is likely to come back with a vengeance in the winter. We're doing a lot we're very grateful. We have strong operations and we have a very strong HR department, which I think has really helped us support our staff. One way we've been supporting our staff is to just deluge them with information so that they are prepared. We are very grateful for the hazard pay that we've been able to provide our online staff. We have an awesome, and I don't just say this, Chief Programs Officer, Jen Schiller, who starts her program staff meetings with jokes and cartoons and ends them with dancing and really good music. We're doing what we can. I think that what's come through for me now is that we're all in this work because we have a passion for our clients and a passion for our mission. And we're now operating in a new environment. And I think it was an aha moment for us that COVID wasn't going to go away, that this is our new reality. And so we've been doing a lot of training. We've also had an exceedingly generous community that's continuing to donate PPE, meals. Meals have not dropped. Our 100,000 meals have not dropped during this period, which is amazing. So I think the engagement of the community has been wonderful. Jen, I don't know if you want to add to that. I'm sorry if I called you out in your way you do.
You embarrassed me. That's okay. It's true, though. We definitely do dance. But no, it has been difficult. We have had a few clients and as well as staff who've tested positive, and I do think, though, a nod to the CEF team and Healthcare for the Homeless team for the rapid testing, the COVID testing that's been happening. So anytime, like, we had a cleaning person at one of our single site permanent supportive housing programs test positive, and that individual had been in like 18 apartments wearing PPE, but all of a sudden, what does that look like? And so they were able to get out there and help to test all of our clients. Matter of fact, I just, when I was on this call, got a text from a staffer who was doing a home visit, and the client started coughing and vomiting all over them. And so the staffer is on their way going home now to even though she was full wearing her PPE, the client answered the door. The client is on the way to the hospital in an ambulance, and she is on her way home and will change and then go get a COVID test. So these are very real situations that happen to our staff. They put themselves out there every single day. And it has been challenging, though. I don't think you can dance enough to kind of, make it. and we are, we're gearing up for that next surge. So at MCCH, for example, we have, we're trying to stockpile our PPE, making sure that we have enough hand sanitizer, and the things that we, were missing in March. That's not going to happen anymore for us, but it has been a challenge for sure.
Well, thank you for that, and I'm glad so far everybody's been healthy and you've been able to help those that haven't, right, in the right way. Interfaith Works, I don't know if Mr. Hall knows the staff to that level, or Ms. Hong wants to weigh in, but I'll defer to either of you.
Yeah, I think Christine really should, but I will say much of what I've heard about Interfaith Works has been very, very impressive about how the staff, even in this really, really difficult time, is approaching the work with great empathy and great commitment. This is really, really hard work. Regardless of how much you're paid, it's hard work. Regardless of the setting, it's really difficult work. But to work in a homeless shelter in the midst of a public health pandemic is really difficult work. But the staff continue to rise to the challenge. The stories I've heard so far have truly indicated that the desire to continue serving, the desire to continue helping has not abated in the least. So.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I would just add that it has been a challenging time. And, opening a shelter in 1 week, we're still, doing our best to get that shelter to where our other shelters are that have been open for, the Women's Center, we've been operating for 30 years. So it's been a challenge, but at the same time, our staff are in good spirits. I would echo what Susie said about hazard pay. That has been really important to ensure that our shelter doors remain open and our staff 24 hours a day around the clock. So really appreciate all of the support around that. And yes, we have definitely had, we have had 2 recent positives amongst staff. There were 4 in the spring, but everyone has recovered. The more recent positives were asymptomatic, and those 2 individuals are well currently. And then there were also some recent exposures, and the majority of people exposed have tested negative, and would also say that testing has been essential. And that the Healthcare for the Homeless team, Lasagna Kelly and Kim Ball, whenever there's a positive amongst clients, they move quickly to work with us to ensure that those clients are isolated in a hotel and have the support they need. And I think that has been, all of us working together has been the key to keeping our positivity rate very low. And I think we just have to continue doing that, staying in close communication and collaborating together. So I just thank staff and Healthcare for the Homeless and all of you who have allowed us to do this very important work. And so, yes, we are hanging in there and we are very committed to our work, and you can count on that from us.
If I may add something, because I know you're going to move on to Rainbow Place, but also the provider network, our nonprofits, we have been really supporting each other. So I think having that community has been essential. And so I think these crises, it's the opportunities and crises, that brings us all closer.
Absolutely. Everyone helping each other, and wonderful shout out for Healthcare for the Homeless as well, because it takes a village, as we all know, right? Lauren, any updates from you?
Well, as I mentioned, we closed on April 2nd. So right. We have about, I think, 5 or 6 of our staff members also work for IW. So Christine already spoke for them.
Sure.
And we too really am proud and glad to be part of this partnership as well.
Very good. I'd like to open it up if any of my colleagues have any questions. Councilmember Rice.
Well, thank you very much. So my question is more along the lines of when we do have this increase, and so it's just something to think about for the fall. Look, we're spiking. We're spiking in our communities right now, and we're realistically, I was on the phone with the county executive earlier today. We are really looking at the possibility of turning back some of the things that we have had open. It is incredibly concerning. The risk continues to be there for people in our general community, right? So let's just say that. And then when we look at our at-risk populations, it's even larger. So let me just channel a little bit of, and so Councilmember Glass, I've been the Jiminy Cricket on the shoulder today. So let me play a little bit more of that role. As you've heard, the makeup of the constituency of our homeless population is primarily African American. Those African Americans are more susceptible to death from COVID than their counterparts in our community. And so who are going to be the most at risk in our community? But those folks who don't have access to high quality health care, who are in and out, who are being shipped around the county. And that is incredibly concerning. And so we have got to have a concrete plan, not just in terms of where they're going to be, but how we're going to protect them as well, right? And so we're talking about the baseline of ensuring that we have a place to where they can not be congregated on top of each other and those kinds of things. And I appreciate all of that, but there's so much more that goes into this that needs to be a part of this now, right? Where we are planning exactly what this is going to look like, because if not, I fear that those that die, and there won't be a lot, we've seen our deaths continue to kind of manage themselves, but one death is one too many that's preventable. And if we can get around that, and again, like I said at the beginning of my first comment, I'm not saying this to anybody who doesn't care about this or doesn't know that this is important, but I just want to make sure that we have a plan. And so I see Dr. Kroll, my good friend, raising his hand. So Dr. Kroll, the man with the plan, let's hear it.
So a couple of things. One, just before I say anything else, just want to acknowledge that, as I said in the COC yesterday, meeting with all the shelter provider community, that nothing we do would be possible without the partnership and collaboration that we've had, and without adherence to a number of things that have resulted in the infection rate and the risk rate being lower in the shelter population than it has been in the general public. And I think that is something to remark on, given the vulnerability of the population, given the closeness with which they live, and the unavoidable contact that they will be in with each other. It's been a great job, and the challenge, as I said to the team yesterday, is continuing that effort in the face of fatigue and being tired and exhausted is important. This is not just a conversation. We've been having a conversation about physical space, but this is not about physical space, just about physical space. It is absolutely about continuing the testing that we've been doing as a special case, the social distancing that has been going on, the sanitation, the mask wearing, the PPE wearing, all of that, and continuing the use of hotels, which we did from very early on for folks who are most vulnerable, who are over the 62 age limit or 65, I forget which number it is now, in a space, and folks who had medical vulnerabilities too. Thank you. Medical vulnerabilities to someplace safe at the beginning of this process, and the capacity to use quarantine hotels. All of that has to stay in operation and has to stay in full effect throughout this winter, and we have to be especially vigilant about it throughout this winter. And that message I gave to the team yesterday, they already know that. So I don't think I was saying anything they didn't already know had to be done. But I'm saying it to you so that you know, and so the council knows that this is not just about let's just find a place to put people. This is an important and ongoing. All of that has to be maintained throughout this winter and into the spring.
Dr. Kroll, and I really thank you for that. I just want to also encourage you that as those places and spaces become more and more challenged based on what I think is going to unfortunately be a huge surge in talking to Dr. Gales and just seeing and projecting what we're seeing across this country as well as across this world in terms of what's going on. I know that HOC, our Housing Opportunities Commission of Montgomery County, has expressed their interest in working with folks to ensure that we can provide spaces for people. And so I just want to remind folks that there is a partner that's out there in our community who is certainly looking. And so for all of our nonprofit partners that are on the phone as well, Stacy Spann, who's the executive director of HOC Montgomery County, has taken this full on and said, look, if we need to be preparing some of the properties that we own and working towards ensuring that we can have some additional spaces, they're willing to look to be able to do some of that. So I encourage us to think outside of the box as this pandemic unfortunately spikes again and we see record numbers go through. There are other alternatives that are out there. And Dr. Kroll, to you and your team with HHS, you know, my staff, namely Daniela, works with a lot of the folks and hears from a lot of the folks that are housed in these hotels, so we know all too well, and you guys are doing an excellent job in really providing resources to them to make sure that they're taken care of. So I really want to thank you guys for that.
Thank you.
Any of my other colleagues have any comments? Okay, we've covered a lot of ground today, and you know, we have the one theme that has emerged is the need to continue talking, you know, collaborating and moving forward together to do this really hard work, which you know, as some of the experts, national experts, are telling us, will become a little bit harder with the increases based on the economic and health situation that we're currently experiencing. But you know, if past is prologue, we will continue doing incredible work here in this space because of our administrative leaders, department leaders, and nonprofit partners as well. And so it doesn't always have to be easy, but that's why we collaborate, hold hands, have tough and honest conversations as we've had today, I believe, and course correct as necessary so that you all have the resources to help serve our most vulnerable residents. So I just want to thank all of you for the incredible work that you're doing, and know that you can contact all of us in case you need any help any time of day, as many of you already do. And so I just want to say thank you. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to the chair of the HHS committee, Chair Albornoz.
Well, Councilmember Glass, I think you said it all. This was a very productive session. I think, you know, everybody's working around the clock on this and so many other issues, and we respect all of that. And the council stands ready to help in any way that we can, whether it's through appropriations, whether it's to connect to different communities that are out there. We appreciate all the effort, and we look forward to the ongoing discussion.
I'll follow on if I can. Great conversation today. Compliments to you, Evan, as lead, and to Linda for the terrific work. To all of the effort that's going on, there's a huge project that's underway here. So first of all, it's good to see, you know, there's a big effort. Understandable anxieties from our partners. And I know that government at times can feel it needs to hold information back or wait until the right moment. But I thought today's discussion was terrific. Get everybody together going forward, in a stronger dialogue, and I think that will help a lot. Make sure we're able to, succeed with this. So thank you for everyone's participation. I guess we'll adjourn. Thank you.
I defer to the chairs to adjourn.
Right.
There you go.
Yep. Well said. Okay, we're adjourned.
Check the status.